Continuing with elementary, video number 3. Elementary. You must get past elementary, and you must have the correct teaching in elementary. And I am not going to leave Hebrews chapter 6 yet. I will leave it shortly. I have started with, therefore, leaving the elementary teaching about the Christ, let us press on to maturity. We have to press on to maturity. You cannot mature where you are. You have to press on. You cannot lay but one foundation, the right foundation, and if you get the right foundation, you don't have to start over. You don't. Yeah, I just read in video number 2 about the ground receiving rain and being tilled and growing something for the farmer to eat. That's what I read about. I read about God is not unjust. God is not unjust, okay? Please understand that God is not unjust. He's not. And God will do what He said He will do. I promise. Now, God made the promise to Abraham. Now, who made the promise to Abraham? Who did I just say? I said God made the promise to Abraham. Who did I say earlier God is? I said God is God. I said God is the Spirit. God is a Spirit. God is the Father of a Son, begotten and born in Bethlehem, named Jesus. I hope you got that. I don't plan to repeat it. When God made the promise to Abraham, since he could swear by no one greater. You know why he couldn't swear by anyone greater? Because there's no one greater. There is no one greater than God. If there was, God would have sworn by him. He would. And if I swear, I better swear by God, because there's none greater than God. And if I do swear by God, I better be right. I better be, because God won't take something like that, you know. That gets his notice. Yeah. God made the promise to Abraham. He could swear by no one greater. He swore by himself. He didn't need anybody else. He could do it all by himself. And so, having patiently waited, he obtained the promise. He had to wait patiently. He couldn't obtain the promise any other way. And Abraham did not obtain the promise until he was about 100 years old. He didn't. I mean, God brought him out when he was 75. And now, at the age of 100, God tells him, you're going to have a son. You're going to have him by your wife. And you're going to name him Isaac. I know what God told him. He had to wait for it. But God didn't tell him that at 75. No, God didn't tell him you're going to have a son at 75. Although he did make a promise that he was going to have, be given, his descendants were going to have something. So God did give him a promise at 75. He did. So I have now been corrected by God. God gave him the promise at 75 about him and his descendants. At that time, he didn't have any kids. All right, I got that out of the way. The same way God, desiring even more to show the heirs of the promise the unchangeableness of his purpose, interposed with an oath, so that by two unchangeable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have taken refuge would have strong encouragement to take hold of the hope set before us. And now most people have today have been given something, and they told them there's nothing else to it. Oh, this is it. You got it. You got this right here. Everything's going to just be finished. All you got to do is confess Jesus is Lord. Ask him to come into your heart. You're fixed for life. Don't worry what anybody tells you. Oh my God, I hope nobody believed that. Now, that didn't come from God. You might have thought it came from God. It might have sounded good, sounded like it did, but it didn't. But there are two unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie. We who have taken refuge would have strong encouragement to take hold of the hope set before us. This hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, which enters within the veil. Now, we haven't talked about the veil. Yeah, you can read the New Testament and find out when Jesus was crucified, the veil was rent, torn in the temple. That's what you'll find out. There's a new word here, the veil. We have an assured and steadfast one which enters within the veil, where Jesus has entered as a forerunner for us, having become. Now, what has Jesus become? Do you know what Jesus has become? Do you know? Hebrews chapter 6, elementary. Get it. Jesus has become a high priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. There you have it, folks. What has Jesus become? I just told you. I read it right here. That's chapter 6 of Hebrews. Jesus has entered within the veil. Not going into the Old Testament. I'm not going into the veil. I'm not teaching that. I told you a while ago. I'm in the New Testament. That word just happens to be there. If you want to, learn something and search it out for yourself, please feel free. I'm going to read 7 verse 1. No, not going to read anything chapter 7. Just chapter 6. That's enough. Chapter 6. Now, I'm going to Matthew chapter 1. Matthew chapter 1, New Testament, Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. That's where it begins. That's where the New Testament begins. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. So don't let anybody tell you the New Testament begins somewhere else. I've got a book. I've got it right here. This is it. This is a no writing on that page, writing on this page. This page has Matthew on it. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. It says, the record of the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah. Jesus the Messiah. Elementary. Get it. Jesus the Messiah. The son of David. The son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac, the father of Jacob. And Jacob, the father of Judah and his brothers. Do you get that? This is elementary. Who begat Isaac? Did you get it? Abraham begat Isaac. Isaac begat Jacob. These were fathers and sons. Now we're fixing to find out about somebody begetting. That's what we're going to find out about. right here in Matthew. I turned the page. Verse 18, chapter 1. The birth of Jesus, Son of God, Christ, Messiah. That's not all there, but that's there. The birth of Jesus Christ, Son of God, Messiah. I'll read it as it is so you won't be whatever. Now, the birth of Jesus Christ was as follows. When his mother Mary, who's his mother? Mary. Whose mother? Jesus's mother, Mary. When his mother, Mary, had been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. Mary is with child by the Holy Spirit, so the Holy Spirit has begotten or begat a child. It's just that simple. Don't muddy the waters. Don't dig the hole deeper than you need it, because you might fall into it and not get out. God has now, according to what I just read, a girl is with child, and God begat the child. Joseph was supposed to and did become Mary's husband. But Mary had been betrothed to Joseph. Before they came together, she was found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. And I hope some people do understand this. I really do. It's not complicated. Although if you go to seminary or to some, I don't know, it gets complicated. It's not complicated to me. With child by the Holy Spirit. That means the child that's in her has already been begotten and has been begotten by the Holy Spirit. The child does not have to be begotten and begotten and begotten and begotten. That's not how it works. Mary has now and is now with child by the Holy Spirit. And it goes on. Joseph, her husband, he's a righteous man. He didn't want to disgrace her. He planned to send her away secretly. Not a good idea. God didn't go for it. But what happens? When he had considered this, that means he's thought about it. You got it? Elementary. If you thought about something, you considered something. Please don't go deep on me here. When he had considered this, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said to him, Joseph, son of David. Joseph, son of David. Do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child who has been conceived or begotten. The child has already been begotten. It's in her. It's already there. It's not coming later. It's in Mary. She has begotten. God has a son in the woman, being to be born soon or later. I don't know when Joseph found out that Mary was with child, but he did. And he thought about putting her away. I don't know what putting her away means. Don't have to know, because the angel appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child who has been begotten in her is of the Holy Spirit. Now, Did we figure out in the 2 prior videos of elementary that God, the Spirit of God is the Spirit. So God is the Holy Spirit. Are you getting this? I hope you are, because 15 minutes has already passed, and I got to cut this one off, and we'll see how far the next one goes.